Hello everyone! In this lecture we will talk about input forms. You will learn how to create input forms for your tables and different options to customize your forms. We will also talk about different elements that can be added to the forms and how to make the elements functional using macro. With the use of form feature, we can create tables and queries with interface similar to that of professional accounting systems. Therefore, instead of a grid style, we can see the data of more than one table in a form format at the same time. Another benefit of creating a form is that it can show the pictures that are stored in the attachment fields next to each record. As you know, the attachment field doesn't show the content, but if you create a form, you can see its content. There are different methods for creating a form. The easiest one is clicking on the target table or query and clicking the form button. Here you can see an example of a table that is converted to a form. This is a stacked form that shows only one record at any given time. When using the form tool, Access analyzes the table's relationships and automatically add a subform to your form if you have any connected table. In this example, we have two connected tables. The first one shows different job descriptions and the second one personal names. We created a form from the job description table, and as you can see, a form is created with two parts. The first part shows job descriptions in the form view, and the second part, the personal name related to the selected job description in the datasheet view. Please consider that the secondary table is always shown as a datasheet. Watch the demo in the next slide.
Table right here, and this is called the publishers table. And so this contains publishers for science textbooks within our college. And so I see, all right, I have my publishers listed right here. I'm going to create a form so I could quickly add and delete publishers from this table without having to see every other publisher while I do it. So let's go ahead and create the form. Now, first thing that you should know how to create a form is it's in the create tab, and then you go over here to the forms group, and then from this area we could choose a bunch of different forms. Now I'm going to show you just the basic form right here, and this creates a form that lets you enter information for one record at a time. And so one thing that's important before I click form is I have to make sure that the table in which I want the form to be created from is selected. Not open, but selected. So if you have any open objects, like let's say I have this table open, I'm going to want to close out of that object first. It's important that it is selected and highlighted in pink over here, because then when I click form, it's going to create the form from that table. So I create the form right there, and you'll see that it pops up right here. Now by default, you shouldn't really have the property sheet open. I'm going to go ahead and close that. By default, it's going to take you to record 1 of 7. Now, very important here, if you have a relationship established between any of your tables, you'll see your initial form right up here, which is our publishers, and then the textbooks, which is the other table in which it's linked to via relationship. So anyway, there's your two forms right there. And so this is a form, and this is your subform sheet. Alright, so we've basically got our form right here. Now, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to save this form. So I'm going to do a Control S, and keep in mind in Access when you do a Control S on a new object, it's saving that new object. So in this case, I'm going to call this Publishers Form, or Publishers Form right there. So I type that out and I click OK. Now notice it's created right here under Publishers on the left side. So now we see that it's now right over there on the left side. Now we're going to check out this form and see what it's really about. Now a lot of students get confused right down here. They think that this area is to navigate around the main form. No, this is just the subform right down here. The main form navigation area is right down here at the bottom, and it says record 1 of 7. So this icon right here says first record. That'll always take you back to your first record. This one is previous record, so if I was on, say, record 2 of 7, it would take me back to the previous one. This record says record 1 of 7 right here. I could click on that and I could type in any number and press enter and automatically go to that record. So for instance, I chose 3 and it took me to record number 3. Then this one right here is next record. Okay, and so I click right there on next record, and that's going to take you to the next record, so 4 in this case. This one right here says last record, so this will take you to record 7 of 7. Okay, and then this one right here is a quick jump to basically add in a new record, so new blank record. And notice when I click on that, it shows a blank record right here. Now, forms are nice because I could go into the form area and I could start to type, but you'll notice that sometimes you won't be able to type. Like if I type something right now, it's not going to type anything in. That's because of the view that I'm currently in. So if I go to my Form Layout Tools Design tab, and on the left side over here, you'll see the Views arrow. I can then switch my view to the form view. And when I do that, it's going to allow me to add in data into my record. So let's say this one right here, I fill in the data for it. Okay, so I'm not going to type in all of the data here just for the purposes of this video. But basically you could add in records. And notice that when I started to type this record, down at the bottom where it used to say record 1 of 7, 2 of 7, 3 of 7, so on and so forth, look at what it says now. It says record 8 of 8. So instead of staying on record 7, it notices that we're typing something in, and so it automatically jumps to record 8. Alright, so now that I've got this record typed out, I can now use the bottom of the page to basically navigate around these 8 records. Alright, so I've added in this record. Now let's say I jump back to the first record. I want to go back to the very beginning. I could click right there on first record, and it's going to take me back to record 1 of 8. Okay, now one of the cool things about working in forms is that you could actually find certain records just by using the form. Like let's say I wanted to find publisher 1006, I could then go right up here to click on publisher ID, which says publisher 1001, and then if I do the home tab, find group, and I click right here on find, okay, or Control F, I could click right there, and it's going to say find what? Well, in this case, I need to type it out correctly, but I type in PUB-1008, or let's say I want to find 1006, and I click find next. It's going to take me automatically to record 6 of 8 where it says publisher 1006. Now again, it's important that I clicked on publisher ID first because it's looking in that current field. And so it matches the whole field. It says, alright, that's publisher 1006. Very good. So I told you at the beginning of this video I was going to show you how to delete a record. So how we're going to delete the record is I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I'm going to go to the records group, and I'm going to click this little delete arrow, okay? And you'll see two options here, delete and delete record, okay? I'm going to go right down here to delete record, and I click on that, and it says you are about to delete one record. If you click yes, you will not be able to undo this delete operation. Are you sure you want to delete these records? I click yes, and now PUB 1007 displays, and PUB 1006 is now gone and deleted.
In addition to the stacked form, there are some other types of forms such as split, navigational, multiple, and datasheet that show different views of our data. Let's start by the split form. This type of form is used to show two different views of the same table. Split form creates a form with two parts. The first part uses the stacked view, and the second part uses the datasheet layout view. Look at this example. Here we use a split form for converting the employee table into a form. The first part of the form uses a stacked view and just shows one record, and the second part uses the datasheet view and shows multiple records. Watch a split form demo in the next slide.
One is to click on the table that you would like to create, from which you would like to create a form. Then we're going to click Create. We're going to click More Forms. And at this point, you want to select Split Form. So this is going to show the data sheet, and it's also going to have a place where you can enter in information, which is a really nice option. So you'll notice that the data sheet views down here below, and the forms up here at the top. You can edit the header here. You can change the theme here. And you can rearrange the fields by dragging and dropping them.
The other types of form are called datasheet and multiple items. They create something like the table view, but we still can use some of the form features and customize them. This slide shows an example of multiple items form. As you can see, the only difference between this view and the table view is the appearance of the cells, such as color and their height. The next type of form is datasheet form, which is 100% same as the table view. But as I said, you still have some of the form features such as changing the colors of the cells or adding conditional formatting. The last type of form is called navigation form, which is like a container. This type of form creates a tab style page that is used to categorize different forms or reports in the tabs. For creating a navigation form, you should click the navigation button and choose the desired layout. Then you should use drag and drop to add your existing forms to the navigation form. Watch navigation form demo in the next slide.
To create a navigation form, click the navigation button that appears in the Forms button group on the Create tab within the ribbon. Then select the desired style of navigation form you want to create from the drop-down listing that appears. Next, click and drag the desired database objects for which you want to create buttons on the navigation form from the navigation pane into the Add New section of the navigation form. As you drop the items into this section, Access automatically creates button links to the objects and shows the objects within the designated section in the navigation form. When you're finished adding objects to the navigation form, click the Save button in the Quick Access toolbar to save it.
If you want to customize your form and just show a couple of fields, click on the fields that you don't want to keep them and press the Delete key. Another way to create a form is using the wizard. With the use of wizard, we can choose the fields that we want to have in our form. Also, we can change the order of the fields. In order to use the form wizard, click the wizard button in the Create tab. In the first screen of the wizard, select the table that you want to make a form based on. Then select the fields that you want to add in your form. Then you should choose the style of the form layout. Finally, type a name for your form and click Finish. Watch Form Wizard demo in the next slide.
So you'll see that I have a Microsoft Access table called Donations open right now. And the fields are Donation ID, Student ID, Club Affiliation, Last Name, First Name, Donor Phone, and donation amount. So on this video, I'm going to show you how to create a form. Now, a reason that you might want to do this is because a lot of people try to add in records on a table when really it might be easier to view it in a form. The problem with adding it on a table is that there's a lot of other data in your way, and you may confuse some of what's going on above the row with the row that you're currently typing in. So instead, we're going to create a form to basically fix that problem to where we can view one record at a time. And one of the best ways to do this if you're just starting out in Microsoft Access is by using the form wizard. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing that you have to do is close any open objects. So I have this table open right now. I'm going to close it with this X right up here, and I close out of that. And it's going to ask me if I want to save the design changes. If you made any, I'll say sure. And then here we go. I have a blank desktop in front of me, and now if I want to create a form, I go to the Create tab, and you'll see right over here is the Forms group, and there's about 6 buttons in it. If you're just starting out, you may want to start out with the Form Wizard because it basically helps you create simple customizable forms. So I'm going to click right there, and it's going to populate this, and it will say which fields do you want on your form. You can choose from more than one table or query. Alright, so we're going to choose from the donations table because that's the only table on this Access database, but make sure that you choose the correct source in your database. Alright, now we have 4 buttons here. This button moves the fields from the left to the right, so basically from the available fields over to the selected fields, and that's the first button. You'll see I clicked it there. Donation ID moved from the left to the right. Then you'll see this button right here. This basically moves all of the fields from the left side to the right. So if I click that, you'll see the rest of the fields moved over to the right. Alright, so these 2 buttons at the bottom basically do the same thing, only they move them back, either one at a time or all at a time. For this demonstration, I'm going to show you using all of the selected fields, because if I move all of them, I can basically edit all of the records or add in new records or edit current records at one record at a time. So I go ahead and I click Next. Alright, now I'm going to stick with the Columnar layout, and basically these are preset layouts by Microsoft Access. You could look through on which one works better for you, and you can try out all four as you create your forms to see which works best given your data. I'm going to stick with Columnar on this one, and I click Next. Here's where we name our form. Since I already have a table named Donations, I want to call this Donations Form. That way I could distinguish between the two. Now I click Finish. And it's going to populate the form right here. And now I see that I am in what's called Form View. The way I could tell that is in the Home tab, the Views group. I click the More button, and it says Form View right here. Form View is great because I could edit current records. For instance, if I wanted to change this donation ID to 100, I could do it just like that and press Enter, and it's going to update both on this form and the table. I could also edit any of the other fields that I have selected on the form. I could also use right down here, the status bar. I can use this to basically move through to specific records. I could do first record, previous record. I could type in a record, so let's say I wanted to go to record 15, I'd type 15 and press enter, and it's going to take me to record 15. And then I could also go to the next record, last record, and then finally create a new blank record. Alright, so any edits that I make in here will be updated on the donations table as well. So that's really nice because I could edit one field at a time rather than looking at everything on a table where again the text is much smaller. Now let's go ahead and click this Views button again. I could actually go into what's called the Layout view. Alright, and if I go out into the Layout view, I could change things like the size or width of these columns here, or I can actually go in and change the height or the formatting and the paragraph settings by using the Form Layout Tools tabs up here at the top. Lastly, I could go in here to the Design view, and let's say I wanted to print this out. I could add in a footer down here at the bottom, or I can change the way that the details or form header is displayed. Again, all of this can be found in the Form Design Tools Design tab in the Views group, and you can switch between these three views depending on what you need to do.
Access provides various options to customize different aspects of your form, such as color, size, or layout. Also, you can add extra elements that are called form control to enhance functionality of your form. If you want to change the size of the form elements, you should change the view to the layout view and simply click on the edge of the elements and drag them. Please consider that form is created in a grid style layout. So by adding new rows or columns to the grid, you can move the form elements to the new rows or columns and customize the layout of the form. In order to add a new row or a column to your form, use Rows and Columns section of the Arrange tab. In order to change the color and the font style of the form, you have two options. The first option is using the theme feature that changes the color and font of all the form elements, and the other option is using the Format tab to change the format of only the desired elements. In order to change the format of a specific element, click on that element and use Font and Control Formatting categories of the Format tab. Watch Form Settings demo in the next slide.
At this point, I want to move and resize the field so we can get a better view of everything. I think everything would fit a lot better if I put it into 2 columns. You can adjust the fields just like you would in a report. For example, you can click on a cell and then drag the edge to resize the column. Next, I'm going to go to the Arrange tab, and then in the Rows and Columns group, select Insert Right to add a column. I'm going to click it twice so we have one column for the field labels and another for the actual fields. Then I'll just click and drag the fields where I want them. You may end up with some empty rows, and you can just click on them and press the Delete key to get rid of them. And I'd like the Other Notes field to be larger, so I'm going to merge it with the other cells in its row. I'll hold down the Shift key while I'm clicking on each cell, and then on the Arrange tab, I'll click the Merge command. Finally, I'm going to make some adjustments to the colors and fonts just to make it look a little nicer. And again, this is exactly like formatting a report. You can go to the Design tab to add a logo or choose a theme, but keep in mind the theme applies to your entire database. So if you want to make changes that will only apply to this form, you can use the commands in the Format tab. Here you can adjust the colors and fonts of individual elements in the form. I'm going to Control-click the fields that I want to change. And now I can adjust the fill color, outline color, and outline weight. I'm also going to choose a background color and add a few final touches. Okay, my form is now finished. I've added the logo for our bakery. I've added a shadow to the search box from the Shape Effects menu, and I've also changed the font of the form header. Now, it may take some time to get the form exactly how you want it, but once you do, you'll have a professional-looking form that's easy for people to use.
Although you can use the Format tab to modify the appearance, but if you need to apply more advanced settings, you should use the Property sheet. For opening the Property sheet, go to the Design tab and click Property sheet. In order to see the related settings of each element, click on the desired element or select it from the Property sheet list. If you want to add a logo to your form or modify the header text of the form, you should go to the Design tab and click the logo or title buttons. Watch the demo in the next slide.
To open the Property sheet, first make sure you're in Layout view, and then in the Design tab, select the Property sheet command. There are several different tabs that you can choose from, and in each row you'll see the property name on the left and the value on the right. And sometimes you'll need to type in the new value that you want, but some properties have one or more buttons that you can click to choose a value. Now you should always pay close attention when you're making changes. Since there are so many options, it may be difficult to remember exactly what you've changed and what the original values were. But if you don't remember what each property does, you can just click on it, and a brief description will appear in the bottom left corner of the screen. So this property controls the vertical position of the object relative to the top of the form. In this form, I'd like to hide the ID field. I'll select it, and then in the Property sheet, I'll go to the Format tab, and then find the property that says Visible. Right now it's set to Yes, but you can click on it and then use the drop-down menu to change it to No. We can switch to Form View to test it, and this field is now invisible. And at any time, if we wanted to make it visible again, we could go back to the Property sheet and change it. Now I'd also like to modify the Orders form. I'll first switch to Layout view. In this form, I'd like the Pickup Date field to default to the current date whenever we create a new order. I'll select the field, and then in the Property sheet, I'll click the Data tab, and then find the Default Value property. In order to get the current date, we'll need to add an expression. Click this button to open up the Expression Builder. In the lower left, there is a box called Expression Elements. There are several different options, and click on the one that says Common Expressions. And then to the right of this, we can choose either Current Date or Current Date and Time. We'll just choose the first one. To the right of that, double-click Date, and it will appear in the area above. Then when you click OK, the expression will appear in the Property sheet. We can now close this. And let's switch to Form View so we can test it. When we create a new order, it clears all of the fields, but the Pickup Date field will default to the current date. We can still change it if we want to, but for most orders we're probably not going to need to, and that's definitely going to save us some time in the long run.
One of the useful features of form is conditional formatting, which is used to change the appearance of the form based on a condition. This feature is same as condition of formatting in Excel. For applying a condition of formatting, you should select the target field first, then click the condition of formatting button, which is located in the Format tab. Then in the condition of formatting dialog box, click New Rule to define a condition for the selected field. In the new formatting rule, you should add a condition. For example, the values that are greater than 400. Then you should choose the format, such as the background or the font color. Watch condition of formatting demo in the next slide.
In this example, I want to be able to apply the format color, like let's do red, to any price that's less than or equal to $25. So it's a flag to the front-end user, a reminder that we need to add shipping charges to those purchases that, again, $25 or less. So to do that, let's go ahead and right-click in a blank area, go to the design view, and you can see this rectangle here is a form. So we've got a subform here, a form within a form, and we want to select the price each field, so click on it. And because it's in a subform, it first selects the subform and then click on it again, and you're able to select the price each field. Then come up here and click on the Format tab, go to the Control Formatting group and click on Conditional Formatting. And show formatting rules for price, and there's the other fields within that subform. Let's do price and click on New Rule. And then down below, the field value is, well, it's not between, it's got to be less than or equal to, and we'll type in 25. And if it meets that condition, let's set some formats, make it bold, and well, let's do the format color, maybe something purple. Oh, if that's black text, we better go white to make it pop and not blend so furiously there. And let's do white. There we go. Okay. And then click Okie dokie, click OK. Let's take it for a test drive. Right click on the tab, go to the form view, and hey, is that less than or equal to $25? It's a flag. Okay, shipping charges. Let's go ahead and go to the next record. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Oh, there it is again. Great.
If you want to create a form from the scratch to customize all aspects of the form, you should create a blank form instead of creating a form from a table. For creating a blank form, go to the Create tab and click the Blank Form button. Then Form Editor will open. In order to add the table fields, you just need to click on the table name that you want to add its fields and drag and drop the desired fields. After adding the fields, you should arrange them on the form and use Format tab to modify the appearance of the fields. There are three views that you can use to work with the forms. The first one is the form view that is used for data entry. The second one is the layout view that can be used to apply some modifications on the form. And the last view is design view that provides all the settings of the form. In fact, the design view is the complete version of the layout view. The benefit of the layout view in comparison with the design view is that this view shows the real data, which is useful for setting the size of the elements or performing other tasks related to the appearance of the form. Although the layout view is an appropriate view for resizing the elements of the form, it doesn't provide all the settings that we need for modifying the form. Therefore, the design view is the best view for editing the form as it provides all the necessary features to modify the form. One of the useful features of the form is adding extra elements that are called control. Form controls are the elements that we can add to the form to display the field's content or to add more functionalities to our form. There are two types of form controls. The first group of controls are bound controls such as text box, checkbox, or radio button that can be connected to a field. And the second group of controls are unbound controls that can be used to improve the layout of the form or run a command. For example, button, label, image holder, or browser are considered as unbound controls. In order to add a form control, go to the Design tab and click the desired control. Then drag your mouse on the form. In order to modify the controls of the form, click on the desired control, go to the Design tab, and click the Property Sheet button. Then use the necessary options to modify the control. Watch some demos of different form controls in the next slides.
Label controls add text descriptions to the forms and reports you create. A label displays the text you enter into it in Design View as a read-only label shown to your users when they view the form in Form View. Users do not interact with label controls. If you need an interactive text control, use the text box control instead. To create a label control in a form or report, first open the form or report in Design View. Next, click the Label button in the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Form Design Tools Contextual tab in the ribbon. Then click and drag over the area in the form or report where you want the label to be placed. There is no wizard associated with adding labels, so when you release the mouse button, the label control will insert itself automatically into the form. At that point, type the text you want the label to display. When you have finished adding text to the label, click into the blank area of the form to set the label's text. Note that if you do not add text immediately after creating the label will be removed from the form when you deselect it. If you want to edit the text within the label after creating the label, click it once to select it. Then place your mouse pointer over the actual text shown in the selected label and click it once again to place the insertion point into the label. Then edit the text as needed. When finished, click away from the label into the blank area of the form to apply your editing changes to the text. You can use the line and rectangle controls to add separation to the different parts of your forms and reports. These can serve to break up the forms and reports that you create into different sections if you would like. To add a line or a rectangle, open the form or report in Design View. Then click either the line or the rectangle buttons that appear in the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Form Design Tools Contextual tab in the ribbon. Next, click and drag from one point to another point within the form or report over which you want to place the line or the rectangle. The selected shape will appear when you release your mouse button. There is no wizard associated with adding either lines or rectangles. List box controls are very much like combo box controls, as they also let you create a list of choices from which your users can choose to enter or change a field's value. The difference between a combo box and a list box is that the combo box only shows its choices when a user clicks the drop-down arrow in the combo box. In a list box, the choices are constantly shown, and whichever choice is highlighted in the list is the selected value. Because of this, list boxes tend to take up more space within a form than combo boxes do. To insert a list box control, open the form in Design View, and then click the List Box button that appears in the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Form Design Tools Contextual tab within the ribbon. Then click and drag over the area within the form where you want to place the list box. As long as you have the Use Control Wizards button selected in the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Form Design Tools Contextual tab in the ribbon when you create the list box control, a list box wizard will launch to assist you in creating the list box control. Simply answer the questions posed to you in the wizard for each screen and click the Next button until the last screen. Then click the Finish button to create the list box control within the form.
Option group is a feature or field you can add to your form, wherein you add a list of options. For example, I have clients here I'd like to add a list of options of how they're going to pay for their order, like cash, COD, company charge, or credit card. But before I add the group of those 4 options, I want to have a field that I can store the values for each option, like cash can be value 1, COD number 2, company charge 3, and credit card 4. So later, if I need to find out if the company purchased with cash, then we'll have the value saved here. So to store the value, it's got to be a field in a table. So what table is this form based upon? So, we can identify it and see if there's a field that we can use to store the number, or at least add one. To find out, come with me, good neighbor. Let's right-click in a blank area, go to the Design View, and to bring up the property sheet for the entire form, just go ahead and find a gray area here and double-click. There you go, property sheet for the form. On the All tab, we're looking at the record source. Begins with a Q, it's a query. Q select new customer. And that's right over here. So it's not based upon a table directly, it's indirectly through the queries. So to find out what table or tables this query is based upon, let's give it a right click, go to the Design View, And let's close out of the property sheet, and it's based upon these two, customers and billing info tables. So is there a field that we can go ahead and use? Well, yes, because I created the payment field specifically for this training video, so we're good to go. Otherwise, you'd have to open up the billing info table, create a field, call it what you want. I called it payment, and then set the data type for numbers so we can store the values for the option group that we're about to add to our form. And so there's the payment, and I added it down below in the grid so I can pull it up in the form. Cool. Let's go ahead and close out. And then to add it, come up here, click on the Design tab, go to the Controls group, click on More, and it's right there, X, Y, Z. You can either choose X or Y or Z. You can't choose X and Y. It's an either or. Let's go ahead and click on it and come down below. You get a plus sign that when you click, that means to add. So we're adding our option group. Click. Opens up the group wizard where it's going to ask us a bunch of questions based upon our answers. Well, we'll get the options that we want. First off, what labels do you want for each option? Well, let's go ahead and just start typing cash. Hit the tab key. And for the last one, just hit the tab key so it gets rid of the pencil, saves it, and go ahead and click next. It says, do you want one option to be the default choice? So, when you create a new record, do you want it to default to what most people pay with? Maybe credit card? Okie dokie. Click next. And then what value do you want to assign to each group? Well, it defaults it to 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fine. You can change it and, type in a gazillion here, but I'm going to keep it simple and leave it as is and click next. And then what do you want to do with the value of a selected option? Do you want to save it for later or do you want to store it? Well, I'd like to see it later on and have it stored. So there's the option that when you select it, it takes the value and stores it into your table. And so what field are we going to store this value in? Let's go ahead and select it. Click on the drop down arrow. Do you remember? I do. Payment. There we go. Click next. Ooh, we get some fancy style choices. Well, we can have it as options, radio dials, or check boxes. Now keep in mind that when you choose check boxes, it doesn't mean that you can choose 2 or more. It's still going to limit you to just one or the other. So let's get that out of our heads and go ahead and choose the other one, see what it looks like. Ooh, toggle buttons. That's fancy. And let's go back to options. Which style would you like to use? Etched. Just take a look at the preview here. Do you want something flat? No, it's too flat. Sunken. Ooh, that's sunken deep. Click next. And then what caption do you want for the option group? Let's do payment method. Hit the enter key on the keyboard and let's see what it looks like in the form view. Right click, go to form. There you go. It's sunken and it's got the caption payment method and it's defaulted to credit card, but that's funny. It shouldn't have a value stored unless in my billing info table, let me scroll over. Do I already have values there in the payment field? I do. So because it has a value, it's not going to be empty. Like if I go ahead and I delete that and I click off, so it saves it, so there's nothing there. I come back here. Is there anything selected there? No, it updates it. Cool. So if I go ahead and select credit card, and there's the pencil, so I got to save it. Hold down the shift key and hit enter, and I go back to my billing info table. The value has been set back to 4. So 4 is for credit card. So what you do in one updates the other. Let's go back here and let's go to number 2, which is cash, and number 3, cash. So those are the same numbers. 1, 1, 3. What's that? Let's go ahead and go back and go to 3, and it's company charge. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so when I come down below and click on create a new record, there's the default credit card. Type in whatever you want, and if they're like, no, we're paying with cash, no big deal, just select that when you save your record. I'm going to go ahead and hit the escape key and get out. If your forms are getting so huge that you have to scroll to the right or down, you may want to consider adding tab pages. They are pages you can add to your forms with the tab up at the top for each page. So if I want to be able to view the first page, click on the first tab. Second page, click on the second tab, and all of it's within the same viewing area. In other words, the pages are stacked. A great example of this is our friend, Mr. Ribbon. Up here, you've got a viewing area that's yay big, and if you want to change it from viewing these commands, well, then just click on another tab. You could call these tab pages, although it doesn't look like much of a page. It's so skinny that they call it a ribbon. So same thing, let's go ahead and create a form from scratch. We'll do it by design. Let's go ahead and click on that, and ooh, that's a pretty big one. Let's scroll down. Hover over the bottom of the grid until you can see arrows pointing up and down, and click and drag and push that up a little bit so it's about yay big. And then we want to be able to base our form upon what? A table, a query. Let's go ahead and do it upon the new customer query. Right click on that, go to the design view to see what table or tables it's based upon. So it's customer and billing info. Great! Let's go ahead and close out of there. And to base this form upon that query, we need to bring up the property sheet for this form. We can do that by double clicking in a gray area really fast. Brings up the property sheet for the form, and we go to the All tab, and the record source, or the source of the records for this form, is coming from, click in it, click on the drop down arrow, and hey, there we go, our new customer query. Select that and we're good. Close out. Now let's go ahead and add that tab control, or the tab pages, to our grid down below by coming up here and clicking on the Design tab, going to the Controls group, and it's right there. Click on it, move over the grid, you get a plus sign that says you're going to be adding something. And what is it? Well, it's going to be the tab pages. Click, and there we go. We get 2 pages. Yay! Well, you can add more, but I'll show you that later. Right now, we're content. Let's go ahead and hover over the border till we can see a 4-way arrow. Click and drag it over. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to customers and our orders, if I put the customer name on the first page and their orders on the second, page 1 and page 2, the names aren't doing it for me. So we can put like client here, then their contact information over here if, well, maybe we don't want to do orders. In any case, let's go ahead and give them names. To do that, you can, well, when it comes to selecting, you can click on the actual tab there, and it puts the selection on that page, as opposed to, well, click on the border, the entire control. Now, as you recall in an earlier training video, that when it comes to selecting text boxes, or in this case, control, this tab control in their pages within the form, you can bring up the property sheet, like by double-clicking really fast on the border, and then over here, you can see that the selection is tab control. If you want to select page 1 or page 2, click on the drop-down arrow, and hey, there they are, page 1, selects it, and then page 2. So if you want to be able to change the properties for the entire control, well, go ahead and select the entire control here, or, if you're good with the mouse, then just click on the border. In any case, you can do it either way. So let's go ahead and select page 1. You can see page 1 is the selection here. And then that name right there over on the All tab is for the back-end user, how you want to go ahead and design it, how you reference or refer to, well, this page here. You can call it whatever you want, but for the front-end user, you may want to make it more user-friendly. So this is what you'll see on the front-end view is what you type in the caption. So let's do client, hit enter, and it updates. Yay, it's to client now. Nice. And page 2, let's select that. Let's type in caption. We'll do contact information or just contact. And there we go. And so for first tab, we'll just have, well, let's add some fields here like the customer ID, customer name, and address. And to add the fields that this form is based upon from the new customer query, well, let's come up here on the Design tab, go to the Tools group, and click on Add Existing Fields. So here are the fields that are available from that query. And with our tab selected, let's go ahead and double click on Customer ID. Oh, that's not going to work. It doesn't add it onto the control here. The tab, click and drag, can we add it that way? I don't think it's going to do it. I think it's just being laid over it. Because when it comes to, let's take this for a test drive. Let's go ahead and click on the View button and click. You see how it's just showing in front of both of them? Okay, not a good idea. Let's go ahead and right click and go back to the Design view and then delete that. And so instead, you want to make sure that you select, well, not the entire control, but the tab there, so it's right there. And instead, let's go ahead and click and drag Customer ID. Oh, you see how it highlights it? Oh, that's a good sign. And let go, and it puts it right on that page. And as you recall in earlier training videos, I showed you how to move your controls around, your text boxes and their labels, either collectively or independently, so you want to watch that on your earlier training videos of forms and reports. Assuming that we're advanced now, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly move it around. Or instead of doing it that way, by clicking and dragging for each one, let's go ahead and select it, hit the delete key and get rid of it. You can go ahead and select them like customer ID and then hold down the control key and do customer name, or if it's a block selection, hold down the shift key and click the last field there. But I'm going to do customer ID, customer name with the control key, and also let's do the address. And then click and drag and put them right there. And then click and drag it. Okay, Cool. So that's on the Client tab. When I click on the Contact, click on that, it disappears because the other 3 fields are on the other tab. So on this tab, I want to be able to add, well, the contact name of the person, which is going to be their last name. Hold down the Control key, first name, click and drag. So we know the name of the person that we can contact over at that company, that client, and we'll keep it simple like that. Ooh, maybe we need a phone number. Good idea. Let's go ahead and select it, click and drag, and add it right there. And of course, we can move it around here and click and drag that gray box over. Okay, great. And let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. Let's close out of here, and we already kind of did, but let's right click, go to the form view, and there you go. So it's all within the same viewing area, just like the ribbon. Just go ahead and click to update to go to the other tab, and well, go back, and this is for the first record. All this is tied together, so when I go to the next record, well, you got the client, and then the contact for that second record is Shelly Collins. And let's go back to the Client tab. So you can see it's highlighted in the customer ID. When I hit the tab key, it goes to the customer name, then address, hit the tab key again, and it goes to the next record. Now, when I hit the tab key, let's say it goes from customer ID to address, and then it goes to customer name. If you get the tabbing out of order and you want to fix that, well, we went over this in an earlier training video, but here's a quick review. Let's go ahead and right-click in a blank area, go to the Design view, and let's go to the Client tab, and then bring up the property sheet for the Client tab with the double-click on the border, and you can see it's page 1, so we got it selected correctly, and the caption is Client. And so let's come up here on the Design tab, go to the Tools group, and there it is, Tab Order. Click on it, and we got the 3 fields that you see here in the tab order. So customer ID first, then name and address. If I want to go ahead and rearrange that, one way is to go ahead and hover over the row header for that row, which is that gray box, until you can see an arrow pointing to the right. Click on it, selects the row, then click on the selection, and go ahead and drag it up, and there we go. Customer name is now first. So when I go ahead and view this in the form view, it'll start in the customer name, hit the tab key, it'll go to the customer ID, and then hit it again, and it goes down to the address. Want to see? Okay, stop twisting my arm. Let's go ahead and right-click, go to the form view, starts in the customer name, hit the tab key, goes up, hit the tab key, it goes down. All right, right-click, let's go back to the Design view, and let's come back up here, Tab Order, because last but not least is the Auto Order. And what that does is it looks over here, in this case, on this tab, starts in the upper left-hand corner and goes from left to right, top to bottom. So in the upper left-hand corner, which isn't too far, it's the first field here, Customer ID, it looks at that, puts that first, and then if there's anything over to the right of that, any other fields, that would be second, then third, fourth. Once it's done with that row, starting in the upper left-hand corner, then it goes to the next row, and it goes from left to right, then it goes to the next row, left to right. And so here's customer ID, nothing over there, so it goes to the next row, customer name, nothing over to the right, so it goes to the next row, address, and that's what auto order is. Click on it, and there we go. Click okie dokie. Finally, I don't know if this is going to be really helpful, is that you can actually change the styles for the tabs by selecting the entire control here. And to do that, you want to click on the border of the tab up at the top, or if you can't do that, then come over here in the property sheet, click on the drop down arrow and look for TAB for the tab, and then CTL, the control. Go ahead and select that. And then over in the property sheet, you have, well, not many styles. It starts off with tab. Click in that field, click on the drop down arrow, you get buttons and none. Well, when I choose none, you literally get no buttons. Haven't figured out the purpose for that yet, but in any case, let's keep it simple and go back to tabs. That was the default. Now, in earlier versions of Access, like 2013, 2010, when you went from tabs to buttons, it was really definitive. You could tell the difference, but here, well, let me show you. First of all, you see where it says contact, there's no line underneath it. Okay, so that's the difference between a tab and, when you click on the drop down arrow, buttons. You get a line. Oh joy. So if you want to go with that, great. In any case, maybe Microsoft will do an update and make it more definitive into a button that, well, in earlier versions, it was very distinguishable, but there you go. Let's go ahead and right click, go to the form view, and that's a button because it's cut off. So let's go ahead and click on Contact and Client. My 2 tabs. Oh, to go ahead and add tabs or to remove them, let's right click in a blank area, go to the Design view, and you can go ahead and right click on that control. You can insert a page. Now, what if I'm not right-clicking on the control? What if I just have like a, I don't know about tabs. Let me go ahead and click on the control. Let's just, buttons, I mean. Let's go back to tabs. There we go. In any case, if I go ahead and I have a tab selected and I right-click there, can I go ahead and add a page? Of course you can. Insert, delete. It's the same thing as if you right-clicked on the border of the entire control, insert, delete pages. So insert a page, there you go. You want to go ahead and reorder the pages? Well, let's go ahead and right-click and go down to page order. So page 11, let's go ahead and move it up in between client and contact, click Okie dokie. And you know how to go ahead and give it a name with it selected. Come over here and type in, a caption, hit enter and updates it. So you can go ahead and reorder it by right-clicking on the border. And of course, after we insert, we can also delete it. And it's gone.
The logo control and the image control both insert a selected image into your form. The only difference between the two controls is that the logo control is automatically resized and placed into the form header section within the form. When you use the image control, you choose the size and placement of the selected image within the form. To add a logo to your form, click the Logo button in the Header Footer button group on the Design tab of the Form Design Tools Contextual tab in the ribbon. Access will open the Insert Picture dialog box, which you use to locate the image file to use as the logo within the form. Select the image file and then click the OK button in the Insert Picture dialog box to automatically insert the logo into the form header section of your current form. To insert an image into the form and also choose the size and placement of the image, click the Image button that appears within the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Form Design Tools Contextual tab within the ribbon. Next, click and drag over the area in the form or report over which you want to place the image. When you release the mouse button, the control will insert itself into the form and also launch the Insert Picture dialog box. Use the Insert Picture dialog box to locate the image file that you want to insert. Click the image file to select it, and then click the OK button in the Insert Picture dialog box to insert the selected picture into the image frame you created.
One of the useful controls is Chart Control, which is similar to Excel charts. For adding a chart, you should click the Chart control and draw an area on the form. In the first screen of the chart wizard, select the name of the table or the query that you want to use as the chart's data source. Then click the Next button to continue. In this window, choose the fields that you're willing to show in the chart by selecting them from the available fields. Now you should select your desired chart type and click the Next button. Based on the selected chart, in this step you should select the field that you want to have as the chart axis and the field that you want to have as the chart value. Here you should select if you want to see the values of all the records on the chart at the same time, or you just want to show the current record. It means that by changing the records, the chart just shows the values of the current record, or it shows all the values simultaneously. If you prefer the chart values are updated from record to record, select the fields that link the table to the chart. Otherwise, leave them blank. In the final screen of the chart wizard, type a title for your chart and click Finish. In order to modify the chart elements, you should take the chart to the edit mode and open Edit Environment by double-clicking on the chart. Then you can use different options in the chart toolbar or in the chart option window to edit your chart. If you want to modify chart content, use the chart option window. But if you want to modify the chart appearance, use the toolbar. Watch chart demo in the next slide.
Click the Insert Chart button that appears in the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Report Design Tools Contextual tab in the ribbon when the report is in Design View. Then click and drag over the area in the report where you want to display the chart to create a frame for the embedded chart control. When you release your mouse button, the Chart Wizard will then launch if you have the Use Control Wizards button activated in the Controls button group on the Design tab of the Report Design Tools Contextual tab within the ribbon. Note that this button appears in a separate section when you click the More drop-down button in the lower right corner of the list of controls. In the first screen of the Chart Wizard, select the data source for the chart. You can select either the Tables, Queries, or Both option button to display those types of objects in the large list. Then select the name of the table or query you want to use as the chart's data source from the listing of tables and/or queries shown. Then click the Next button to continue. In the next screen, choose the fields to display in the chart by selecting them from the available fields list and then clicking the right pointing arrow to move them into the Fields for Chart list. Then click the Next button to continue. In the next screen, click the type of chart you want to create from the listing of chart types shown. Then click the Next button to continue. In the next screen, drag and drop the field shown at the right side of the window into the desired location shown at the left side of the window. You can double-click any summary field shown to change the function performed on the field in a separate dialog box if desired. You can also click the Preview Chart button to show a preview of your chart in a separate window. Once you are satisfied with the appearance of your chart, click the Next button to continue. In the last screen of the Chart Wizard, type a title for your chart into the box provided, and then select whether or not to add a legend to the chart. Click the Finish button to add the chart control to your report. Don't be alarmed if the chart doesn't display your data in the design view. It won't. You need to switch to Layout View to see the data within the chart and also have the ability to resize the chart control until it appears the way that you want it to within the report. Charts are independent objects that contain many smaller objects that have their own properties which can be independently formatted to suit your tastes. When you're in Design View, you may select the chart control and then view its properties within the Properties sheet. The Row Source property, which is located on the Data tab, displays the SQL code of the query upon which the chart is based. If you click into the Row Source property box, you can then click the Builder button that appears at the right end of the box to view the SQL query in the Visual Query Design View, which you can then edit if needed. To edit the chart in Design View, double-click the chart control. This will activate the Microsoft Graph program. Note that the toolbars change to reflect that fact. The new toolbar that appears lets you format the chart. You can select any object in the chart and then click the available buttons that appear in the new toolbar to change its formatting. The data that is shown in the datasheet when you edit the chart simply displays the most recent data. You do not need to change this datasheet info. After making any formatting changes you want, click back into the blank area of the report to
Command button is another useful control that we can use on the form. With the use of command button, we can use predefined commands or define our own command and assign it to our button. In order to add a command button, click the button icon and click on the form. After adding a button, command button dialog box will open. Now you can use the wizard to choose an action for your button. Action means what your button is supposed to do. First, you should choose the desired actions category, then select the action that you want. In this step, you should select a caption for your button. There are two options, text and picture. If you select text, you can type a caption for your button. But if you select picture, you can select a picture as the button face. In the last step, you should type a name for your button and click Finish. The difference between name and caption is that caption is a text that you show on your button, but name is used in VBA language to write a code for the button. As you can see here, after clicking Finish, the button will be added on your form. In this example, we added some buttons on this form with the use of different commands such as search for a record, print the current record, go to the next, previous, first, and the last record, open another form, and close the form. Watch command buttons demo in the next slide.
I'm going to be adding a print form button up here up at the top that when they click on it, it'll print off all the records in the form. So down below we got a total of 14 records. And it won't print these as separate pages. It'll actually try to run them together, and where one doesn't fit on the page, it'll cut it in half and split it over to the next. Or you can go ahead and just have a button that says print record, so whatever record you're on, you can go ahead and just print that. In any case, to go ahead and add a button, Let's right-click in a blank area, go to the Design view, come up here on the Design tab, go to the Controls group, and there we go, Quadruple X, hover over it. You can see the pop-up button, click on it, and then down below, hover onto the grid until you can see a plus sign. That means add, so when I click, it'll add the button. Opens up a wizard that'll ask us a bunch of questions, and then based upon our answers, let's start here. Different actions are available for each category. So what are your categories? Record navigation, here are the actions. When you click on the button, it'll find next record, or find record, or go to first record. Record operations, add a new record, delete. Let's see, print a record, okay, or if you want to print off the entire form, let's go to form operations where, there you go. You can also open form, close form. Let's go ahead and do print form, and then click next. And it says, okay, what form do you want to print all the records in its entirety in that form? Well, it allows us to select other forms, but the form that I'm in is new customers, so let's do new customer, click next. And the default's picture, so that's the sample button. Do you want a picture? Do you want to browse for your own picture? Do you want to put some text in there? Print form, we can go ahead and do something customizable, print now, exclamation point. Well, let's do it without the exclamation point. Go ahead and click next. And then what do you want to name the button? Something meaningful that will help you refer to the button later. Well, it is a command, so if you want to do CMD for the back end, when you're looking for buttons in the property sheet, you know, the command button, CMD, and then you can say it's print. And then go ahead and hit enter on the keyboard, and there it is. Now, if it's not the right size, you can, of course, go ahead and hover over one of the resizing handles, like in the bottom right-hand corner, until you can see arrows pointing in opposite directions, and then click and drag it that way. Or you can go ahead and double-click on the border, bring up the property sheet, and there's the width of the button, and go, okay, you know, let's just do 1 inch, hit the tab key by 0.25, hit the tab key, and then close out, and oh, that's nice. Okay, let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. Right-click on the tab, go to the form view, and it doesn't matter what record we're on, it's going to print all the records. So print now. That's good enough for me to bring up this window, because I don't want to click okie dokie and have like, well, 7, 8 pages, however many it can squeeze onto a page, come out of my printer. So great. And then, of course, if you want to get rid of it, right-click, go to Design View. With it selected, hit the Delete key, and it's gone.
You can also create a button and use a customized action instead of using the existing actions. For this purpose, you should cancel the wizard and go to the Event tab of the property sheet. Then you should select the desired event. We normally use onClick event for the buttons. I said event, but I guess that you're not familiar with event concept. In programming, an event is an action that occurs as a result of mouse click or keyboard press. For example, if you add an action for double-click event of a button, just by double-clicking the button, the action will be fired. Here you can see 4 examples of events. As an instance, mouse click event runs the commands whenever user click on the element, and mouse move event runs the command whenever the mouse pointer moves within the element. After selecting the desired event, you should select one of the options. You can create a macro, an expression, or use VBA coding. I'll explain them in the next slides. Macro is a series of actions that can be programmed to automate a task. There are 2 types of macros. The first one is a standalone macro that appears in the navigation pane and users can run it by double-clicking on it. The second one is embedded macro that is added to the form controls and it's executed when the selected event is fired. For creating an embedded macro, I mean a macro that works based on an event, click the desired event and select the macro builder and click OK. Then you will see this editor. By opening Add New Action, you can select the commands that you want to add in your macro. Finally, you need to fill the arguments. Let's have a couple of examples. For example, this macro saves the form and then closes it. This macro is added to the onClick event of a button and has 2 different commands. It first emails the content of the form as a HTML file, then closes the form. Watch embedded macro demos in the next slides.
To create an embedded macro, first select the object in the form within which you want to embed a macro. Then click the Events tab within the property sheet. Find the event to which you want to attach an embedded macro and then click into the Events property field shown in this tab. Next, click the Builder button, which looks like an ellipsis mark and appears at the right end of the Events property field. In the Choose Builder dialog box that appears, select the Macro Builder command and then click the OK button. This will open the new macro design window where you can build the macro as normal. However, when you are finished, just click the Close button in the Close button group on the Design tab of the Macro Tools contextual tab in the ribbon. Then click the Yes button to save the embedded macro into the form. First select the object in the form within which you wish to embed a macro. Then click the Events tab in the property sheet. Find the event to which you want to attach an embedded macro, and then click into the event shown in the tab. Next, click the Builder button that appears at the right end of the property field. Now, in the Choose Builder dialog box that appears, select the Macro Builder choice and then click the OK button. This will open the new macro design window where you can build the macro as normal. Now, however, when you're finished, just click the Close button in the Close group on the Design tab of the Macro Tools contextual tab to finish. Then click the Yes button to save the embedded macro into the form.
As I said, the other type of macro is called standalone macro, which doesn't assign to any form control. After creating the macro, it will be added in the navigation bar and you can run it by double-clicking on it. In order to create a standalone macro, go to the Create tab and click the Macro button. The process of creating a standalone macro is same as the embedded macro. The only difference is that after creating the macro, you can see it in the navigation pane. In this example, we want to create a standalone macro to automatically open the specific form and jumps straight to a new record. The benefit of creating this macro is that it can save users time by finding the form, opening it, then go to a new record. For creating this macro, click the Macro button in the Create tab. Then select Open Form command. In the Open Form setting, we should select the form name that we want to open. The form name in this example is Customer Form. Another action that we should choose is Go to Record, which is used to go to a specific record or create a new one. Finally, save the macro. Standalone macros can be used for different purposes. For example, here we created a standalone macro to open the employee table and go to row number 10 directly. Let's have another example. This standalone macro opens employee table, then filters the record and just shows the employees whose salary is more than 60,000. Watch a standalone macro demo in the next slide.
So let's start by creating a standalone macro. So on our ribbon, we're going to click the Create tab. And then we're going to click the macro button in the macros and code group on the right. And then notice it's going to walk you through selecting the tasks you want to do in order. So the first task I want to do, if I click on my drop down arrow, is I want to actually open a report. Let's assume that I need to always open the 2 reports when I come in to this database. So open report is the task that I want to do. Then I'm going to select the report name, and in this case it's customers report. And then I could tweak any of these other parameters, but I'm going to leave the defaults. The second action that I want to do, or the second task that I want this macro to do, is I want it to open another report. So the first report that I'm opening is the customer report. The second report that I'm going to open is the orders report. So when I execute this macro, both reports should open automatically. Now I'm happy with my macro, so I'm going to click up on the tab up here at the top where it says macro 1, or I could click the save button up on the left. I'm going to right click, select save, and I'm going to give my macro a name of open report macro. Then I'm going to hit OK. Notice immediately now I have a new object in my navigation pane called open macro, open report macro. I'm going to close my interior window where my macro was. Now I'm going to test my macro by double clicking on it on the navigation pane on the left. And notice the tasks that I programmed, the customer report opens and the orders report opens.
In addition to the embedded and the standalone macros, there are 2 other types of macros called event-driven and named that are only used for the tables. In order to create an event-driven data macro, go to the Table tab and click the desired event. Then select the desired actions and save your macro. Let's have some examples. Here we created a macro using if and send email commands for the after insert event of employee table to send a notification email when a new employee who is from USA is added. In this example, we added a macro to before delete event of employee table to prevent deleting the employees who are from London by showing an error message. In this example, we added another macro for the employee table, but this time for the before change event. The macro will set city field to New York if the country field value is USA. But if the country field contains any other value except USA, the city field will be set to London. Watch event-driven data macro demo in the next slide.
In this video, we will use before change to populate field values. We will create a macro for a table that tracks product inventory. If the quantity on hand is less than 40, we want the commons field to read order soon. If the quantity on hand is greater than 100, we want the commons field to read offer a discount. So we're going to use an if statement in our macro. If quantity on hand is less than 40, do this, or if quantity on hand is greater than 100, do that. But while we're working with this, I want you guys to think of situations and scenarios that would apply to your particular database needs. So, to follow along, you will need to create or use a table that has both the quantity and the commons field. So let's get started. In the Ribbons, Table Tools, Table tab, on the left-hand side, click Before Change. That opens the Macro Builder window. From the Add New Action drop-down, you can either select if or type it in and hit Tab. In the conditional expression field of if there, you're going to type in if the quantity field is less than 40. So to start to tell Access that you're actually looking to evaluate a field, you would start with an open square bracket. And then I'm going to go ahead and type in quantity. Now you can see that as soon as I typed in the Q here on my keyboard, Access recognizes that I want to pull in the quantity field from my table. Quantity happens to be the only field in my table that starts with Q, so it brought it up right away. I can continue to type quantity from here, or I can hit the Tab key on my keyboard. Not only does Access type out the whole word quantity for me, but it also closes my square bracket. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the space bar and then type in less than 40. So now we have if the quantity field is less than 40. Now actually you can also use the expression builder. To get to there, that's actually the magic wand looking button here on the right hand side of the screen. I'll go ahead and click on that so you guys can see what it looks like. Now I find that a lot of times it's easier and faster to type the expression rather than to use the expression builder, but use of the expression builder is totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel on the keyboard. All right, so now we have if quantity is less than 40. Okay, well what do we do next? Next we want to set the comment field to read order soon. So from the add new action drop down, we're going to select set field. We're going to set the value of a field. In the name field, we need to tell it which field. Well, we want to set the comments field. So I'll start with my square bracket again and type in comments. That's the name of our field. Okay, what value do we want to set the comments field to? We want to set that to read order soon. And actually, I'll go ahead and make that a capital O. Order soon. Now that's text, so it's inside of double quotes. All right, so if quantity is less than 40, in the comments field, set the value to order soon. Perfect. That's only the first half of the macro though. Next, we have to tell it that if the quantity field is greater than 100. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we're going to add an else if statement. And there's a link for that. Go ahead and click on the add else if link. Okay. Else if the quantity field, same field, and I'll go ahead and hit tab once I see it there. Else if quantity is greater than 100, again we want to set the comments field this time to offer a discount. From the add new action drop down, I'm going to set field. I started to type in SET, hit tab. We want to set the comments field. I'm typing that in inside of square brackets one more time to the value of, and it's text value, so it's inside of double quotes, to the value of offer a discount, close quote. Well, that's it. Let's go ahead and test our macro. Let's make sure that we save first by clicking the Save button in the ribbon, and then go ahead and click on the Close button in the ribbon as well. That takes us back to our table. Now the macro works from this point forward, so anything new that I type in this existing table is going to trigger the macro. So in the first record here that I have for long grain rice, I'm going to go ahead and type in, let's say, 39 and hit the tab key and enter that in. See, it says order soon. Northwind Traders, gnocchi, we just checked our inventory and actually now we seem to have maybe 140 boxes of gnocchi. So I'll go ahead and enter that in, and there you go, offer a discount. So any number under 40, we need to order soon. Any number over 100, as far as the quantity, we'll want to offer a discount.
As I said, the other type of macro that we can use for tables is called name macro, which is a reusable form of macro. For creating a named macro, click Create Named Macro in the Table tab. In the editor, select the desired actions, then save your macro with an appropriate name. Now your macro is ready to be assigned to an event of a table. You should select the desired event and select Run Data Macro action to call your named macro. The last type of adding an action for a form control is using VBA. VBA stands for Visual Basic for Application. In VBA, we can use Visual Basic language that is customized for Microsoft Office to develop complex systems. VBA language is out of the scope of this course. However, I'll upload an optional lecture for you to learn a bit about VBA if you're interested. Hope you have now a practical knowledge of Access form concepts. In the next lecture, we will talk about how you can create report to summarize data and create a format which is appropriate to be printed. Don't hesitate to ask your questions on the course forum or from your tutor.